How you doing, Shannon?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Trey?
Never bad, never bad. I appreciate you coming here. It's been a while, I know.
I know. Well, I'm so excited to do this. I feel like this is such a good opportunity in a pandemic to catch up with people, you know?
Right, exactly. And you know, in our industry, man, it's like unless we're working on the next production together, a week turns into a month, turns into a year. So it's been so awesome doing this, catching up with all of my peeps. So yeah, and then we get to do what we love to do. We get to talk about films.
Did we meet on Ghostbusters?
Exactly. That's what I was gonna ask you the same thing, man.
Oh my God, that feels like so long ago, but
Yeah. I,
it's been a
yeah.
while.
It was that. So I first came to Boston because got Harry and Tim Blockberger. They got a job on Joy with
Yes,
with Jennifer Lawrence, and then I was only supposed to be a day player, but I was. Then they just brought me in every day, and
awesome.
and then I started dating who's now my wife. So I was staying around in town, and then we did a job in Cape Cod, and then Harry called me again and was like, "Hey, Ghostbusters is coming. I could use you." And Sean Breadbrenner too. He was on that too, and yeah, and then I met the great and powerful Shannon Hardy.
Did you meet your wife in Boston?
So actually, I met her in Las Vegas. So
Love
so
that.
yeah, man. So me and my buddy, we went to Las Vegas to go to Las Vegas, right? And so when we were there, um, we had to connect with one of the DJs there. He was saying as long as we brought just as many girls as guys, he'll let us into whatever the venues are. Just let us know, and he'll let him know, and he'll let the DJ know there, or whatever, whatever. So, or the security there or whatever. So we basically would be outside of the parties, collecting two or three females to walk into the club with us. And I had gotten two women that didn't speak a lick of English. It's like they're like, "I know something about you want to party? Yeah, 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 get in the line." All right. So we're in the line, and then my buddy just comes with this mob of people, like probably like six, seven people partying. It was couples, and then a couple of women, and then I take a selfie with all of them, and in the background of that photo, that was my wife. And,
Oh,
yeah, and we didn't even do anything while we were there. She had a
right, right.
boyfriend, so we just exchanged numbers, and then we text every now and then. But when Harry called me, because she had just moved here from Amsterdam to go to grad school,
Uh-huh.
that she's from Amsterdam. So when Harry called me to go up to Boston, I was like, "Oh man!" I text her. I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be in Boston," and she was like, "Oh, cool, you can come up." And so I came over, and then I started staying with her, and I never left.
Oh my God, that's so sweet. That's like a good example of what happens in Vegas, like doesn't stay in Vegas. I love that.
her was her maiden of honor that was on in her speech. Yeah, what
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
clearly, yeah, she did not. We did not follow the rules. Yes, we
No,
didn't.
no.
But sorry, guys, we didn't do an intro because we just have so much catching up to do.
Sorry.
But yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine. So, guys, if you don't know, this is the new Filmosophy, and today we're going to be breaking down Booksmart. Now, those moments when you go and you watch a movie with your friends and your family, and then it blows your mind, and then you talk about it for 2-3 hours, days, and you geek out about it. Well, that's why I got into the industry, and that's why we're here today. And this has been an awesome opportunity, like we were saying, to just catch up with all of my industry friends. And today we have Shannon Hardy.
I'm so excited to be here.
So great. Yes, Shannon is an amazing filmmaker. I'll let her run off her resume to you because I didn't do my homework before I was here. But in any event, she went to USC, and so none of us are worthy. We're lucky to have her here, right? I'm really excited to hear about your journeys with that. I've seen you do so much. I see her finish award-winning short films on the social media. I see her do stand-up comedy. She's rocking crowds, and I'm just super excited to catch up with you. And then we'll get to dig in because we've both have worked on and are working on coming of age films, and she suggested Booksmart, and I'm so glad she did. My auntie and my grandma are actually in town this weekend, and we watched it all together this morning, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this was like the perfect film to watch with them. It was so much fun.
It's just so fun. Did they like it? Did they enjoy it? I don't know how you don't enjoy it. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I mean, Trei, you're amazing. I've watched your shorts. I think you're so talented, and your brain works in ways that I admire people who go for production heavy short films, because I'm such a baby when it comes to that stuff. I'm like, okay, we're gonna all be in one room. And that's it, because it's just so hard to, like, seriously, and you pull it off, and you do great things visually, and I commend you, and I'm so happy to be here. But so yeah, I went to USC. I was a production major there, and USC is a little different in that you have to kind of compete to get into certain classes. So that was extremely difficult for me, because I was like, I am paying all this money to be here, and I have to compete with these people to get into classes. And then you also have to compete with your students who are supposed to be your friends to get funding from the school. And it's like highly, highly, highly competitive. Like, not everybody gets to direct something with money behind it at USC, which is I think why when I see something that's production heavy, like the stuff that you pull off, I like shriek back, because I'm so used to being like, okay, like, there's no money here. Like that kind of, or just like kind of being used to just like keeping the expectations low. And I was really trying to find ways to find my own voice when I was there. And so I made something outside of USC, and it ended up being the thing that I felt like I made that really showed my voice as a filmmaker. It was a coming of age short film about two girls and their close friendship turning into something more, which is why I thought Booksmart was a good idea, because that's how I found my way in. I was like, okay, I'm into female friendships, showing kind of like a fluidity in those friendships, showing people who are diverse, and kind of like what this next generation kind of represents, and how open-minded they are and how empathetic they are. And they're kind of been born into this like political shitstorm. And so their whole identities are kind of political in and of themselves. And so when you show those people, it doesn't hit you over the head with a message, because they are that message, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, so doing that short film really made me feel like I knew who I was as a filmmaker.
That's beautiful. Can you say the log line, like what it was all about, the characters?
Yeah, so it was all in one location. Took place under the bleachers. So it was like these two girls who've been best friends all throughout high school. One of them is questioning her sexuality. She is bisexual, and they use a Ouija board, which is something that young girls use all the time. They use a Ouija board to kind of ask each other how they feel about their relationship. So I don't know if you've ever used a Ouija board, but it's like you're like asking the spirits questions. So by asking the spirits questions, they are revealing the subtext of how they feel. So she might ask her a question like, do you think there's a ghost here? And there's what she's really saying is like, are you into me? Like things like that. Like, that's not exactly the dialogue, but I wanted to explore dialogue and how people can say one thing but mean another, and then it kind of turns into a whole different thing, and it ends up bringing them closer. And it, I think it's like a 5-minute short, but that's the gist of it.
That's beautiful, man. Yeah, subtext, man. My one of my screenwriting teachers always said your dialogue should be as subtextual as possible. You know, you shouldn't be like, you know, I'm gonna walk over here now. You know, it's more about what is like that's the fun. That's the fun of dialogue. It's supposed to mean so much more upon layers upon layers. And with Booksmart, that's exactly what I was thinking. Where I was just like, man, I remember with me growing up, I was definitely like multifaceted. Where I played football, I was the jock, but then my grades were all right enough to hang out with the nerds. But then I just liked hanging out with everybody. I hung out with the hood. I hung out with the preppy kids. And I was on like the prom court and all that stuff. And I felt like even then we had a little coven. We had a little witch coven of women, the girls that wore their robes and stuff, and everybody thought it was weird, but those were my homies. We would talk about Kurt Cobain and Alanis Morissette and stuff,
Those are my girls.
with karaoke, right? With the karaoke scene, right? But I mean, I was thinking, wow, with Booksmart, and I know you're a little younger than me too, so like, what was interesting to me, and shout out to Olivia Wilde, she did a magnificent job. It's so beautifully done, and I was just like, man, like there's a whole nother beast happening here. It's another way of growing up where, and I love how Booksmart did not shove it in your face. It was character based, and they were really dealing with the whether it was bisexuality, whether it was, and it wasn't even one dimensional where it was like, oh, we're the smart girls and you guys need to get your stuff together. Everybody was going to college and they needed to get their stuff together because they were being too one dimensional. They kind of had to break out. So do you kind of notice a difference or similarities? How was your high school?
So my high school, I felt like there were definitely cliques in my high school, and I don't know if I don't know if everybody in my high school, like Booksmart, went on to do these amazing things. But what I did think was similar to Booksmart, because I think that the generation that Olivia Wilde, placed Booksmart in has this a little bit worse. I feel like the pressure of college and to be successful, like through the generations, has gotten more and more intense.
Right, right.
And I think that, like when we were in high school, we felt it. And I think that like Gen Z feels it like to the nth degree. So that's why I thought it was so interesting that all of these characters are so nuanced, because they're kind of bred to already be thinking about the workforce that they're entering at all times. Mm-hmm. So I think what's almost like inherently political about having all of these students being like, yeah, I'm going to X, Y, and Z college. And the fact that you think that just because I was partying doesn't mean I wasn't studying and preparing myself for that, is the fact that like kids today, they grow up really fast and they're like almost bred to always be thinking about like, you're going to be working a 9 to 5, because we're in this capitalist society, and it's becoming more intense, kind of that divide. And it's becoming more intense, like that pressure to attain money, pressure to attain status, Mm-hmm. And I think that because they've always had social media in their face, that they're always kind of exposed to, people who have it all, like right on their phone. And I think that they experience that immense pressure. But what I like about these characters is they're also nuanced. Right. They break the stereotypes. Well, they show the stereotypes, but then they look at them with like an empathetic eye, and you can really understand them.
Yeah, it was very, all the characters were so layered. It wasn't just the gay guy and the jock and the nerd. It was very layered characters, and I really love that. I want to go, because we are going to get back to Booksmart, I want to talk more about our film schools, and I think it's so interesting, and it's so important for people to hear, both, any aspiring filmmakers or anybody thinking about film school, to really hear about both of our tracks, because, we were both PAing, on Ghostbusters a few years ago. And I think, were you already at USC, or did you just get in at that time?
I did Ghostbusters the semester before I went to USC. So I actually was a transfer student to USC. So I did my last 2.5 years at USC. So I was entering as like kind of a sophomore. So I hadn't even gone yet.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah.
Did you have to have like awesome work that you did at the school previous to get them interested?
Yeah, I was very, I don't know. So at my old school, I was at a school called Salve Regina. They didn't have a film program, and I probably would have stayed there if they did have a film program. So it's probably a good thing in the long run that they didn't. But basically, they didn't have a film program. I went there and realized that I wanted to do film. And so what I had started doing was like I started kind of building their film program, and I became very close with their one or two film professors, and like I was able to kind of advocate for funding for their film program and get them more money so that kids had equipment to make stuff. And like I was like the president of their film club, and so it was like anything that was like film related, like I was running that. So I think that was like a huge part of why they let me in, because they're like, oh, this girl's crazy. Like she's like making a film program where one just doesn't exist.
Right.
And then yeah, so then when I got to USC, I think that really prepared me. But what I really don't think I was prepared for like the competitiveness of it, because I like don't have a competitive bone in my body. I'm just like, I'm here, you're doing great, I'm doing great, like that's it.
That's all great. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was just the biggest adjustment, honestly.
Yeah. So, and I know your pops was on transpo. So yeah, man. So and he was great, man. I you know, being a PA, you gotta be in with transpo, you know, or else you can't do your job. So, did he kind of give you your first glimpses of the industry? Is that where you kind of first started getting it, from the mean streets of Boston?
Yes, it's really funny. So my dad is like a sneaky artist. Like you wouldn't see him as such because my dad is a Teamster truck driver. But so since I was a little kid, I was always like, you know, I would like write books, and I would like write plays and like make home movies and stuff like that. And my family was pretty encouraging of that. But my dad actually used to be a music producer and, you know, do stuff like that. And then he started, he got his Teamster truck driver's license, and was like, hey, you know, like I know you want to be a filmmaker, you should start PAing. And so I think he talked to one of the ADs, and he was like, and he like handed them my resume, and he was like, she could absolutely do this. Cause I was operating cameras for like PBS. Like I was like shooting stuff for like Nesson. Like I was very like, I mean, not that that necessarily would translate to being a PA, but I did have legitimate set experience. So, he really opened that door for me. And then my very first movie experience, like ever, like working on Ghostbusters, was working on set with my dad. So I'd be at a lockup, and my dad would drive by with the truck and like throw me snacks, and I'd be like, Dad, stop. Like I can't be just eating. They're gonna think I'm not doing anything. Right. So I have bags of snacks, and I'd be like trying to give them away to like the extras. I'd be like, please eat this. Because I don't know how this works. I don't know if I'm going to get like yelled at or whatever. And he's like, I haven't seen you eat all day, you know?
Oh, man.
That's so cool. That's so cool, man. No, you were amazing to work with. I could hardly tell your experience. Like, you know, when we're zipping around and stuff, you don't have time to like, are you qualified to do this? No, it's the people that are alert and that are paying attention. Those are the people you gravitate to ask to get stuff done. So yeah, man, I definitely recognize the hustle in you early. And I think that, you know, when you talk about being a film director, I think that is really what it's all about. That same cunning that it took for you to create, you know, the program where you did it. And regardless of film school, you know, when you talk about, my higher concepts that always get me in trouble because they end up getting expensive. But, you know, it's for me, I've always, you know, kind of been playing pretend, you know, and I ask myself, what do I want to do? And then I just, you know, I YouTube it and, you know, read the books, see what people I aspire to be like, see how they got it done. And then, you know, I just go in, you know, ignorantly and go through all the lumps. I have made so many screw ups, man. Like I've tried to throw parties so we can shoot a party scene. You know, that went to hell. And, you know, just wasting everybody's time. You know, I've tried to do all this stuff, and I really appreciate my years PAing, because if nothing else, it showed me this echelon of what it takes to knock things out, and the efficiency of the way things need to be. And as much as, you know, even now, like, and we'll get into what I'm working on now, but I think that what's, you know, me going to SCAD Atlanta, where it was not competitive, I'm sure that the work that I have done for my, you know, my undergrad, and I did a couple of music videos and shorts, you know, in between undergrad and SCAD, I'm sure that got me in a foot in there and got me a couple of scholarships. But I really think that the perspective that I was able to have while I was in school is really what made it worth it. Because I'm just, you know, and not to sound, you know, like I'm high on my high chair, but you'll just notice that, you know, very similar to every other, you know, like a doctor or a lawyer, every other profession, people are there to get a job in the film industry, and for somebody to give them a break in the film industry. And to me, it was always like, hey, you know, I'm going to use this, you know, to learn and to network. And it is also a blanket where I can get free rentals and stuff. But I know, first of all, everybody was looking at me crazy anyway, because I could have just gotten my days and been an AD. So everybody was looking at me crazy anyway for going to grad school. And I was just like, I'm going to do whatever I can while I'm in here to make great work, to make as good a work as I can do, because it's such a finite amount of time, as you know, that you really get to experience being a director. And it's so important to get those hours in directing, because especially when you're first off, you don't know what the hell your vision is or what your voice is. You got to find it. You know, and that's really the way I always took SCAD. And even when I did my thesis, we did a crowd fund where we earned the money, and I built up a decent network to where I could delegate and get things done at a decent level. But even then, you know, I was just sitting on set and things were going great. You know, but I was just like, man, this might be the last time that I'll really be able to do such a high concept with such finite provisions, you know, but because I had the backing of the school. People are okay with doing things for free and giving you things for cheap because you're in school. So now that I'm listening to you talk about the competition that it takes in USC, it's so different, but it's so the same, because it's all about, again, finding your voice and taking advantage of that time while you're there to just soak up all that knowledge. You know, did you have any favorite professors or any classes that really just cracked your head open to really get you to go out there?
Well, yeah, I think that like, you know, like as you were saying, that ability that film school gives you to find your voice is that's everything, right? That's why you're there, because you walk in and you're like, just teach me, but I'm an artist, so teach me how to say what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And I think that one of my professors that I actually am still really close with, who did that for me, was my directing professor, and funnily enough, an acting professor, because for me, I've always wanted to consider myself like a like an actor's director.
Right.
And so they let me lean into that. And I think through studying acting with Anne DeSalvo at USC, I understood my way in. I knew how to get what I wanted from my actors in a way that was like, they're trying to get there. How do I get, you know, and just talk to them in terms that make sense to them, because it's like, it's not about just like cry. It's not about that. It's not about that. And if they don't feel the emotions, I know I commend actors that can kind of just do that on the spot. If they don't really feel it, then for me, it comes off as false. And so she trained me to know the language of speaking to actors. And then my professor, Paul Kowalski, who's actually, if you look him up, he's an incredible director. He's done a lot of really great, like award-winning indie films, and he's doing big things right now, and he runs a writers group actually for his students that he keeps up with. So I'll meet with him maybe I'm not doing it this month, but I'll do it probably in 3 months from now, where we all come together and we workshop things that we're writing on. Mm-hmm. And one of the girls in there is just got into the Sundance labs, and so they're all doing really great things. And so to hear feedback from people who are doing the thing and is great. And so he's just so energized and wonderful. And as a directing professor, I felt like he gave me the tools to speak to actors even more so, because that's what I was nervous about. I feel like, the visual elements of it, I felt more comfortable with, but for me, I felt very insecure about performances, because when I watch a movie, I'm so critical of performance. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be able to walk if I'm going to watch a movie and be critical of it. I wanted to be able to do that. Right. So he helped me with that, as well as all the visual stuff. And he's just he does it. He does it all. And I think that's why I connected with him. He's a writer, actor, and director. Mm. And for me, starting off as a woman, I heard so many people say, you got to pick one lane. And my brain just doesn't work that way. Right. And so I'm but I want to do, that's my way in. That's why I get so enthusiastic, is because I like writing. I like directing. I like acting. I just like storytelling. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so he allowed me to be all of the things. Mm-hmm. And that is how I connected with him, because he was doing all the things and he was like, that's fucking bullshit. Those people don't know what they're talking about. Those people, right. Don't let anybody tell you what you can and cannot do. And that you can't be all three of them. And you know what I mean? It's one thing to, to focus on directing and try to get your way up through there, but it's you have to if that's what your heart wants and you want to learn all of those things, you just have to do that. You're not going to be happy otherwise. It's not a soul thing at the end of the day. It's
right.
That's so beautiful. I always say, we as the dreamers, the artists, we traded security for freedom. And it comes at a cost, because we don't have the 401ks and we don't have that clear trajectory of the next steps. But what's really cool about it is that when you find yourself and you don't let the industry kind of sop you up, you have a awesome opportunity to figure out everything. You can fill your 24 hours with everything that's going to make your dreams come true and make it reality. It doesn't have to be a dream. I think about when I was listening to Whitney Houston, one of her interviews, and she was saying, the Bodyguard years, and just the way she was talking about it. When we think of Whitney Houston, we think of her as a singer. But to her, she filled her days with the things she loved to do. And it just so happens that The Bodyguard is what popped. And that's what we know her for. And that's what her career is. And that's what people called her to do the gigs and stuff, right? So the thing is that, back when I was rapping and nobody wanted my little CDs and I was performing in front of two people, I didn't really feel like a rapper, but I was, and it culminated into all sorts of other stuff that happened. And then when I was performing on my friends' short films at the Art Institute of Washington, I didn't really feel like an actor, but I was, and it manifested again. And when I was a PA, I didn't feel like a filmmaker. I was a really good coffee order rememberer. I was a really good walkie charger, but I didn't really feel like a filmmaker. But man, you look up and you're sitting in the saddle of what you really want to do. It's man, I so humbly do I say, man, I wake up in the morning and, I'm either watching a movie because I got a podcast coming up that I get to talk about it and talk with my friends, my like-minded friends about it, or I'm in pre-production or I'm preparing for a film, and I like, and who knows, maybe it might be that one thing that one of my friends asked me to act in, and that's the one that blows up, and now I'm the comic relief guy, right? Or maybe this short film, this sci-fi short film that I do. Oh, he's such a sci-fi director, but I'm working on a coming of age film, right? It's like I'm not any one of those things. We allowed ourselves to take the steps to manifest our life. That's the reward, and money and success should be a byproduct of how good you get at those skills, right? It's not just something that is waiting in 3 or 4 years because you chose the craft. That's just not how it works for us, right? You know?
Yeah. No, yeah. It's crazy. It takes, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It takes that one thing. It just takes that one thing. And I think that one thing is in the back of like every artist who takes that risk's mind. They're like, I don't know what I'm like. It takes like this, like, I listened to Whitney Cummings' podcast the other day, and she was like, I feel like every comedian has to have the, like, I don't give a fuck attitude on some level. And I think that carries over, like, it translates to kind of every artist has to have that. You can't care so much that, like, your friends have 401ks. You can't care so much that, you know, somebody's not going to like it. Because you don't know what the thing that you make how it's going to affect other people, and if it's going to be that thing that pushes you to the next stage of your career.
Right. Exactly, man. And enjoy it all, you know? And that's what it's all supposed to be. How's your stand-up going, man? I know with COVID and stuff, it's a lot different, man, but how's that going?
It's going good. So, I mean, before COVID, I was finally getting more time. So I've been doing sets at, like, the Comedy Store. I've been getting sets at the House of Blues in Anaheim. I'd been getting sets at Flappers, which is, like, not a big, everybody, like, uses, like, everybody jokes about Flappers, but a lot of people get their start actually at, like, I think so, at Flappers. There's a lot of great comedians there, because what they do, Flappers is, like, for people that don't know, like, but Flappers is this, it's this comedy club in, like, North Hollywood. Okay. And North Hollywood is, like, where it's like the suburbs, but it's cheap. And there's kind of, it almost just looks like one big highway. And it's like, like, nothing really good happens in North Hollywood in my opinion. I love North Hollywood. I lived there for, like, 3 years. It's great, but, like, I never went out in North Hollywood. And but there's this club there, and they have, like, big comedians there all of the time because you're in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. But the running joke is kind of that there's, like, they have newbies up all of the time. People who like you could, like I one time opened for Whitney Cummings. And I'm not that very established. Right. People really, I think a lot of people go there because they're very kind. They're just, like, good people there. Like, Flappers, shout out to Flappers. But anyway, so yeah, I was getting more time. I was getting on more shows. I was doing, like, I was meeting more female comedians, and I was meeting more friends in the community to learn how to do it. And I think that, like, a huge part about comedy is those relationships. Right. So the night that I opened for Whitney Cummings was probably, like, a couple of weeks before COVID hit. And it was, like, accidentally, like, I was doing a set and they were like, we have a special celebrity guest coming, whatever. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, wonder who it's going to be. And then the host comes up to me and she's like, do you mind opening for the celebrity? And I was like, sure, like, whatever. And it ends up being Whitney Cummings, and I'm, like, a huge Whitney Cummings fan, and I'm just like, and I get stomach aches before every time that I go on stage. So I'm running to the bathroom. I'm, like, explosively, like, I'm sorry, like, I have, like a really bad stomach ache, and I'm in a jumpsuit. So I don't know if anyone's ever gone to the bathroom, like, who's listening, in a jumpsuit, but it's not a good time. And it was horrible. It was horrible.
Not a good time to be explosive.
I'm rehearsing my lines, like, just trying to, like, get my clothes on. And also, this was, like, so this night, J-Lo, I work at Creative Artist Agency as an assistant, like, to pay my bills. Wow. And J-Lo is a client of CAA. So she had left like a bunch of clothes for the assistants that like she was just like giving away. Oh, wow. And so I was like, yes, like I got a big show tonight. I'm gonna look so good. Like, so I run into this big like room full of just like J-Lo clothes, and assistants are like clawing for stuff. I get this jumpsuit that's like a $300 jumpsuit that like I can't even get myself inside, like the zipper stuff. These $200 pair of heels. I'm like, this is gonna be the fucking best night ever.
And you cracked all over it.
When I tell you, like, it gets worse. So then I get up there and I'm like, I'm like, my stomach's churning. I'm so nervous. Like, I'm like this top isn't like adjusting right. I am maybe 10 seconds into my first joke and my top just completely breaks. And I'm literally, it's like a nightmare, you know, when you're naked in front of a bunch of people in a dream, except it was like actually happening, and they were like waiting for me to tell jokes. And I was like, oh my God. And so I just like, I'm holding my shirt up for my entire set, and I'm like, I couldn't even, I get through it. It was actually like, it was probably like my best set that I had ever done.
Right.
I think that when your shirt falls off, you go into fight or flight mode, and you just like, you're like, nothing matters. Nothing matters at minute. Like, and I think that nothing matters. Like once that like thing turned off in my brain where I was like, this doesn't matter. Like this couldn't get worse.
Right.
That then opened the door for me to just kind of like let go and have like my best set.
That's it.
And then afterwards, like I was talking to Whitney Cummings, and she was just like, me and every single female comedian on the lineup were like consulting as we were watching you. We were like, what do we do? Do we go out there? Do we help her? Does somebody fix her top? Like everybody's like, and then Whitney was like, I'm holding them all back. Like, no, like let her learn. This is how they learn to swim. And so it became like this amazing opportunity to like then talk to her, and she was like talking to me about my jokes and like helping me. Like she was like, you know, you have this joke about like your dad going to prison, like you need to talk about like your mom and like how she's always dating guys like that. So I was like, it was like this amazing moment where it was like, oh my God, like this is what I've been looking for, like these like friendships. And then I met this like incredible woman named Nathania, who's an incredible comic. She was in Just for Laughs, and is like a killer, slays. And she came up to me and she was like, that set was awesome. And I was like, thanks. And then we became great friends, and now she's like invited me to be on her show, and she'll go to open mics with me, and she just has like this huge heart. And I like, it was like one of the worst nights of my life, but then it just like became this amazing thing where I was like, because in comedy it's all about those connections, because without those fellow comedians, like it's hard for you to, I guess, maybe like develop, because I mean, especially like as a woman, because you're walking in like it's a boys club. I mean, like Hollywood is a bit of a boys club, but like especially comedy clubs. So that was like my lifeline. Like I just, you know, like being like, is this funny? You know, like, cause especially like with women, we're like, I don't know, like girls aren't funny. Like, I don't know if this is funny. I don't know, like, you know, and so to have just that feedback, and now like people to like practice jokes on, and to just like, it's like one of those things, like if you can see it, you can be it. And so to meet those like comedians who are just like, well, Nathaniel, like Whitney Cummings is eons, of course, she's a superstar, but like to meet comics who are like a couple of notches above me is great, because I'm like, okay, that's what I'm going for. That's my next step, right? So it's like I can see it, so I can be it kind of mentality. So before COVID, I was like, oh, I'm getting into a groove here. Like this is working out, you know. I was
I'm going.
Yeah, and I had like my type 10. I was like, you know, this is good. Like, I don't know if you watch Marvelous Miss Maisel, but like that was like a big thing for me. I'm like, oh, okay. So once I get my type 10, like I can just do that over and over.
And what was that again? What's the type 10?
So type 10 is like your tight 10 minutes. So it's like,
got you. Okay.
Yeah. So you measure, like, you want like a joke. I mean, you want to laugh every like the more laughs per second, the better.
Right.
So a tight 10 is basically a 10 minutes full of laughs. You know, like there's no dead air, you know, like of course there's like the comedic pauses or whatever, but it's like
everyone's in. The audience is in for that whole 10 minutes. I got you.
You know that 10-minute works. You could do that 10 minutes to like a funeral and it'll work. That like that's your tight 10. So like, but that's like what you work towards, like as when you first start, because you're just doing open mics and you're like, I don't really know it's funny, like you know, so you're just like kind of throwing darts at a wall,
right?
And then you're cutting everything that doesn't work,
right?
Until you get that tight 10, and then you can use that to then get booked. And so I was there. I was like, my tight 10, I'm getting booked. I'm not getting booked like crazy, but now I'm at least getting booked. So that was where I was at. Yeah.
So beautiful, man. That's so encouraging. Thank you for telling that story, man. Because you're right, and the mentorship is so important in the arts. You know, because again, we don't know this trajectory. We don't know how we're doing. Nobody, you know. I love when I get critique from my script from people who have actually done it, or watching my short from people who have actually done it. Well, you know, one of the DPs for House of Cards that I worked with, now he's on Fargo, and I can send him stuff and he can give me strong advice about it. Or when it comes to directing and asking, you know, just the mentorship, man. And I know with the in the comic sphere, especially for women, it is very much this cloaked thing, and it feels like almost like a secret fraternity, like, or a sorority. How do I get in there? I want to get in there so bad, and I embrace all that stuff, all of the ugly stuff. I'm a big stand-up comic fan, and I tried to do it once. I didn't invite anybody to it, and I completely bombed. It was horrible, but I appreciate it because it was different from being a musician, where you can kind of be cloaked by the music, you know, and everybody's kind of there to have a good time. But it's this kind of sense of telepathy, I feel like, that a comic has, you know, where you really have to have this same synergy and feel the crowd out and be all of that I'm just like, that takes guts, man. I'm so like empowered just listening to you talk about it. I love that you were able to do that, man.
I'm going to pause 1 second because I got to plug in my laptop.
Okay, go ahead. While you're doing that, I'm going to put your name up on the show board. How about that?
What's that?
I'm going to put your name up on my show board while you're doing that.
Love that.
I have a show board back here, and I'm supposed to change everybody's name on here, but we just hit the ground running.
Sorry.
No, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. I love it. Cool. The last movie I did was Waiting to Exhale. Have you heard that movie before? That's a Whitney Houston movie.
Is it? I haven't heard it.
It's from the 90s. It's this... It's basically, for lack of a better term, it's a chick flick, you know? It's about these four...
Maybe I like it then.
Right, yeah. It's about these women going through breakups and stuff, but I just love it, man, because it just says a lot about, you know, the black woman's struggle, you know? Mm-hmm. And my homegirl, Tara, she is all about that. She has a podcast where I want my little sister to listen to her, because she's just so empowering, listening to how she's able to kind of conquer her demons and just she manifests her life, you know? So
I love that.
Yeah, it was really cool. Really awesome.
That'll be my next movie to watch.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Love anything like that.
It's really good. And Forrest Whitaker, he directed it.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. So this pen doesn't work. There we go. 10.
We'll get there.
And eventually we're going to get to Booksmart, but this is just too good. You got too much. You have too awesome of a life. We can't even get to the movie.
No, I'm just very long-winded.
All right. Shannon, make sure I'm spelling your name right. It's Shannon. O-N, okay.
Yeah.
Shannon Hardy. Beautiful. Explanation point, ... smiley face.
Yes.
Beautiful. So yeah, man. So we'll get down to a couple of our homework assignments that we got to do here. So, well, one thing that I ask everybody who are all the guests What is your filmosophy? No right or wrong answer. What's your filmosophy?
Like for my filmmaking?
Yeah, for your filmmaking, for the movies that you like to watch, whatever the first thought that came up to your mind, what's filmosophy to you?
I think that's a really good question. For me, anything that it has to be honest, but it also has to have an arc for me. I think that but that's just that's maybe more my taste. It has to have a clear the character is everything, right? I'm a big character driven person. Plot is important, but as long as that character has a beginning, middle, and an end to their story, that's big for me. Yeah, I think character is everything. If we can relate to the character, you could tell me a story about somebody like, trying to clean their bathroom. If I relate to the character, I'm gonna watch that.
Word. That's beautiful. Character and honesty. And I love that you said that, because this podcast episode is a perfect example of that, because we're more interested in your character. We're sitting here and we're listening to you, and it's great. It's encouraging. It's the ups and the downs, and it's honest, And so I love that. I love that term. Yeah. I love that that explanation. Your definition of filmosophy. So name a VHS that you either still own or one that you can remember that you popped in.
Wait, this is crazy. Do you see my little VHS player over here?
Oh my gosh. Is it like connected to the TV, that white TV?
Yeah, it's like one of those old school little TVs.
That's epic. I love that.
I have the Terminator on VHS.
The first one?
Yes, that actually is what the television came with that VHS. I bought that VHS because I have a bunch of home videos from when so basically when my dad was in prison for a little while. I talk about that in stage, but like when I was a kid, he was away, and to kind of show him my childhood, my mom and my aunts, they basically filmed everything that we did, so that when my dad got out, he could watch all of these VHS players and feel like he was there. And so those VHSs mean the world to me. I know that the question was more about like movies, but like those are movies to me. Those are like a day in the life that you'll never get back.
Right. Step aside, Terminator. That is beautiful. I love that. But yeah. I love that it was Terminator, because James Cameron is all about his female protagonist, and that was the first glimpse. Well, actually, I guess Aliens was before that, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. So, but yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. All right. So what is the last movie you saw at the theater?
Oh my God. Before the Apocalypse, I saw, oh my God. What was that? I think I saw Rocket Man. Like the
Rocket Man.
Oh my gosh, I love that movie so much.
It was really good. I cried at the end when he's in the
therapy place.
Yeah, and he comes in with the costume.
Right. Oh my gosh, that was such a good movie. I love that.
That was a really powerful movie.
So good, man.
And I loved how magical it was, because his life was magical. You know?
Yeah.
So cool.
I mean, like all of the colors that he evokes through his costumes, I really love. I mean, I don't know if you can tell. I have like. This is very like a Booksmart inspired look, because I feel like Gen Z just takes makeup and all that stuff to like the funnest degree.
Right.
But it's also like I'm getting hints of Elton John. I think he would approve. It's like I've got like the what are they called? Like the face gems or whatever.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. You bedazzled in here, man. I like it. Yeah, man. Yeah. Elton would be proud. Elton definitely would be proud. All right, and then the toughest question ever in the world. What's your favorite movie?
I hate this question. Everybody is always so mad at me because I never have a good answer to this question.
Oh man,
Um,
there's three. No, I'm playing.
Honestly, I think 20th century women.
Word. I don't know if I've seen that.
It's great. It's got Greta Gerwig in it, Annette Bening. Uh, it's amazing. It's a very like grounded story, and it was like before. I mean, obviously Greta Gerwig was when she was acting, but
Right. Oh wow. I gotta
yeah,
check that out. That looks awesome. Okay. Beautiful.
yeah.
I love that. Cool. All right. Yeah, man. And do you feel, before we get into the film, do you feel like do you feel encouraged, or you kind of do you feel bad that COVID kind of got your slowed down your mojo, slowed down your momentum? Are you taking this time to create or write, or what you up to?
I'm doing okay. I'm taking this time to write. I think at first it was really discouraging because I was on the verge of a promotion, I want to say. Like I had kind of done my time at CAA, but then I was interviewing for other jobs, and then it just kind of stopped, and I had gotten a job offer, but I turned it down because it wasn't like perfect. So then it felt like I was like stuck at CAA, even though, like I really love my job, but I was just ready to like go work for like a showrunner, or like be like or work for a director or something.
Yeah.
As an assistant. But then something really great happened, and now I feel like I'm just doing good. So I had been writing a coming of age feature with my really like my best friend Ariel Sobel, who's just a killer. She's like, when I say I am not competitive at all, she's the most competitive person I've ever met. And like, we just like, because we're so opposites in that way, we just mesh together, because she's like, we got to do this, and this. And I'm like, da, da, da.
Great.
Play the
And,
game to the game.
Yeah. And she's hilarious. She's so funny. She's like, I don't see myself as like a funny writer. And I'm like, your one-liners are great. So we'd been writing a coming of age feature together, and it actually ended up like I was talking to a manager for advice about like what to do, because she has agents over at Paradigm. And I was like, well, like, like I don't have any representation, and like we want to, do these projects together, and I have these other projects, and I'm just wondering, like, is it that big of a deal? Like what I should do? Just kind of like, we're more like just, I wasn't even advice. It was just like, we were just like shooting the shit, like, and like talking about like what I had going on. And then just from like talking about what I had going on, he was like, well, I'll just represent you. And so then that's how I got my manager, was like, but that wouldn't have happened without COVID, because when COVID happened, when we were shooting the shit, I was like, I don't like, I was like, I was supposed to get this, like promotion. And now I kind of feel like, I'm like, what do I do here? Like,
Right.
And then I was like, I just felt like I was at a weird time in my life where I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, man. It's crazy you said that, because I felt the same way too before it, because I had a kid on the way. I was about to graduate, and it kind of ended up being a good pause, So that's cool. If you don't mind my asking, what's your coming of age about?
Yeah, sure. It's about a girl who has an estranged relationship with her father, but then her father helps her throw a sweet 16. So it's like this chaotic, I mean, not to give like too much away, but it's this very chaotic family dynamic. When he comes back into her life, basically the way, like, she's kind of all set with him. She's like, I don't need you. I'm an independent Gen Z woman. Like, like I'm 15, but I think I'm 45. And that's like the whole, like, I think conflict, right? Is like, you have this Gen Z young girl, latchkey kid who's just always had to do things herself. And then her dad comes back into her life, and he's like, well, let me be a dad. And she's like, dude, like you have all of these ideas about patriarchy and needing to be the patriarch of a family, and I don't need that.
Right.
And so they're just two different generations.
Right.
And he's like, well, I see that you really want to have this Sweet 16. Like, why don't you just let me help you do it? And then so from doing that together, I mean, of course the Sweet 16 has to go terribly wrong, right? So
right.
It ends terribly. And I had like the world's worst Sweet 16. So I think that was kind of the inspiration for it. So my Sweet 16 ended in like a brawl. Like the cops came, like people were smashed off of cars. Like it was really something. Like it was funny. Like tables were flipped. My dad was on the microphone. Like he was like, "If you guys don't get the fuck out of here, like I'm coming out of this." It was intense.
Right.
I was like, let's take the idea of what a Sweet 16 means for a young girl, because it means kind of like, it's almost like a rebranding, if you will. Like, this is your moment to, like, you're now a woman. You are no longer a child. So it's all about like that, right? And then so the Sweet 16 goes horribly wrong.
That's beautiful. Honesty and character. There we go again. I love that, man. I'm excited to see it. You let me know how it goes. It's I'll just tell you again before we go on to Booksmart. Sorry guys, all you Booksmart fans, we'll be there shortly. But you know, first of all, I'll just say again, I'm just so encouraged by your bravery. You know, I keep thinking about how afraid I was when I did my one stand up, but then, you know, I would MC a lot of events. And so when you were talking about your tight 10, I was thinking, you know, when I MC'd events, that was my stand up. That was more, but it wasn't that pressure. I didn't put that pressure on myself to have to make people laugh. But they say going pro is when you can do it on call. So I'm so encouraged.
Well, you said you rapped. So like, I mean, that takes a whole other kind of bravery. So, I mean,
yeah, man,
that's insane. Like, and you got to have a rhythm. And when you were rapping, I mean, it's like you obviously have written out what you're performing, but I mean, that's the same thing. It's like some comics can freestyle, some can't. Some have to go write it. You know?
Right.
Yeah, man. And I think that's kind of what brought me into filmmaking too, because I need to refine. I love being in my lab. You know, I feel like that's where I get the best work done. So whether I was writing my rhymes or, you know, now that, you know, when I'm in pre-production or in development, like that's where my best work gets done. You know, it kind of reminds me of when I played football where, you know, it's the summer workouts. That's where I'm out working. That's where I'm winning, you know. And then by the time Sunday came or by the time Friday night came or Saturday, you know, that's the easy part, right? You know? So yeah, I appreciate that, you know, respecting that in that case. Yeah, but with I'll just let you know, because I know you were already asking me about the short or the film that I was working on. So my buddy Charles Griffin, I actually played football with him at the University of Alabama, Birmingham. We played D1 there. Yeah, man. Yeah, it was a fun ride.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that was like 50 pounds ago, and I actually lifted. These days I do more lean work than anything, but but he ended up becoming a police officer afterwards. He moved up to Maryland. He was from Montgomery, Alabama. He ended up moving up to Maryland. He was doing a lot of cool things, and he started screenwriting. And when he started seeing me on social media doing everything that I had going on, he was like, "Oh man, you know, I won a couple of screenwriting contests, and man, we need to link." And we started reading each other's script. You know how hard it is to get people to read your script, you know, like especially the features, you know. So we would bounce ideas off of each other all the time. And in particular, I really loved the coming of age story that he had wrote. It was called it's called Hobo Jungle. And it was about him and his three friends that he grew up with. One of their little brothers end up going missing. So they go out in the woods to find them, and they stumble across a homeless community. So, yeah, man. So I just loved how aware it was of, you know, the homeless community, the homeless struggle. Of course, I think now, especially with everything that's going on, I think it's, people are starting to realize what's all that's happening and how those lines get very blurry between, the homeless community and us, and really we shouldn't even think of it as that, right? My wife is a therapist, and you talk about, people that deal with mental health and also just having bad luck, having things happen to them and what has to occur. And I really love that. And I loved how colorful each of his friends were. These young preteen boys that, that look like a lot of the ones that happen to get killed in the police shootings, but it's nothing gangster. It's nothing about being poor. It's nothing about, being a rapper or a basketball player. It's about these 4 boys that are just humble, they got their parents. They just love each other, and one of their little brothers are missing, and they all have their little individual quirks. One plays video games, one's a book nerd, one likes sports. Yeah, man, I loved it. I gravitated towards it, and unfortunately, my buddy, he ended up getting cancer, and he passed away last year. So he ended up when that happened.
God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's I appreciate it. Thank you. His family's so resilient, and so I just love them. They're so encouraging, and they're just beautiful. And he was a beautiful man. It was really unfortunate. But one of the things that was just very frustrating for me, we know what happened with the politics and stuff of playing football at UAB. We know how it is to be in law enforcement, and then he had all these screenplays written, and he just it was his dreams deferred, things that's not happening for him, and then he passed away. And it's like, I'd be damned if that's the end of his story. I'd be damned. So I really wanted to get this story done, and I just reached out to one of his cousins telling him that I was doing it. And when his anniversary of his passing last June occurred, they were talking amongst their family, and I guess that it came up that I was working on the project, and the city is aware of what I'm doing. Their cousin, a cousin of his in particular, that was about to retire from the military and wanted to get back into the industry, so he was already saving up to do this. We all but have all of it financed, the feature already. When they found out I was doing the short film, they're completely backing that. And man, and just Grip is just, it has never been so easy. You talk about me doing all these crazy sci-fi films, these high concepts. We're just in the woods. We found a park out, about 30 minutes outside the way. We casted these beautiful 5 beautiful young black men, and they're bat boys, I guess, and it's all just happened so organically. I've never had such an amazing crew, such high sustenance of production value with all the equipment that we have. We're shooting aspherical and anamorphic lenses on the RE. It's just all these beautiful things are happening so organically. I'm not even doing all this Herculean lifting that I once was, and I just know that it's just like, man, this is what being a filmmaker is about. It's just being of service. It just so happens that I'm the filmmaker. I lived a life that brought me here. And it just so happens that somebody needs a story that needs to get put out there, and it just so happens that I'm the one for the job. So it's just been the most humbling experience watching it all come into fruition, and just be a part of this thing, man. It's been beautiful.
Oh my God! Well, I mean, talk about the perfect. I'm in love. That project, the structure, just it's so grounded but so simple, and then it's a beautiful event to lead up to, and just the stakes are there, and it all takes place in the woods. I mean, talk about the lighting does everything for you, right? It's gonna be beautiful. I'm just I can see it now, and I'm excited. That seems like one of those things that when it falls into your lap and everything just happens the ways that it should, all of that stuff is out of your way for you to make something that shows just how talented you are. Do you know what I mean? And when you don't have all of those things to worry about,
Mm-hmm.
you can focus in on your job. So, as the director, as a director, writer, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything else is kind of taken care of. I feel like sometimes when you're making a low budget film, or you're doing something that's kind of like, you don't have like a lot of money or whatever, you become worried about all of these other things that take away from your time on set, your time with the actors, your time with each department, But so I'm just so happy for you, because that is such a beautiful story. And I'm so happy that you have this like personal connection that's going to come through. And like, it just feels like the perfect project for you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And it's how beautiful.
Thank you so much. Yeah, when you talk about, being, a performer's director, I feel the same way. I feel like with my experience PAing, I'm definitely a producer's director, where I'm thinking about the the development, the budget, all the way to distribution and on. I'm very, procedural, the way I think about things. And then also coming from a performance background, like I was Simba. Okay, that's a big deal, guys. I was Simba in the fourth grade. In the fourth grade, y'all.
It was a big deal, man.
Stage for life.
And then also, from, my rapping and stuff. So I always, I've acted on camera myself. So I've always felt like I was more of a performance director, actors director, and, producers director. And I've been building my photography skills. And it's so awesome that my buddy, he's won a couple of daytime Emmys. And again, this has been a school. Like, this was the best case scenario where we're just walking out in the woods with our cameras, just taking pictures and seeing what color the leaves are going to be at what time of the year, and, just how our skins are acting at what time of the day. And it's just what this lens, and he holds me accountable. Why are we using this lens? Why are we using this angle? Why are we using this frame? And I got to sit and think about it. And it's just, in every way, it's just been so fulfilling for me, man. It's just so yeah. Thank you for the kind words. It's really been great. I'm excited.
Of course, it's like it's like when you start off as someone who like PAs and like does all, you're grinding, you're paying your dues. When you finally get the opportunity to do something like that and to just do your job.
Right.
There's no better feeling.
Yes, Lord. Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, all you Booksmart fans. Now, what I did want to say real quick, did you hear about that Jessica Chastain movie where it's kind of like Ocean's 11, but it's like Lupita, a famous Japanese actress, it's like a combination of all these women about to go out and fight crime and stuff. Like I'm gonna look it up before the end of this.
Like they're like vigilantes, or
it's like I'm gonna look it up right now. Jessica Chastain, new movie. My one of my screenwriting teachers was just telling me about it, and I'm gonna put Lupita in there. And it made me say, I gotta tell her about this because I know you'll love it, Lupita.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, man. I before I forget to tell you, the 355. It has Penelope Cruz, Fan Bang Bang. Yep, that's it. Yep.
Oh shit.
Yeah, please check out that trailer whenever you get the chance. You don't have to watch it now, but I wrote it up at the top of my page. I was like, I know you'll love it. You got to check it out. It's so dope because it's not about girl power. It's about like a really solid film, that's done that just so happens to be done by women, and they all assimilate and kick butt. Like, I gotta chill watching the trailer. I think you'll love it.
Oh, thank you. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, man. All right. So yeah, man. So we have Booksmart, and I guess Molly, the character of Molly, that's Jonah Hill's little sister.
Yes. Isn't
That's
that
so
crazy?
cool.
Superbad, Booksmart. Yeah, man. They were great. That was perfect. And we start off, Molly is meditating to some gangster shit. Right? It reminds me of my I when I was playing college football. I don't know where I got it from, but I started making my own meditation tapes, and then and one of like my girlfriend at the time, she was like, "You are an idiot," because like if you listen to it, it's like, and then I'm speaking in it. I'm the greatest.
Wait, are they like positive affirmations?
Yeah, it was like you can do anything.
I love
Yes.
that stuff.
You're the
It's so
greatest
funny.
football player ever.
I relate to that so hard because I mean, I would listen to like Louise Hay, positive affirmations also in high school. So when that opening absolutely killed me, I was just like, this is just so relatable on so many levels.
Yeah.
I think because she's just so driven, and I think it's like naturally like me and you are very like ambitious people. So like ambitious people watch Molly's character, and you're like, yes, like please, like that's exactly like we get it.
Right, exactly.
You definitely got to be a self-motivated in our world, and
Yes.
meditation. And I know this podcast has heard me say "know yourself" every episode, but there's a mindfulness and a sort of inner strength, a very esoteric thing that we all kind of have to find within ourselves. Do you meditate? I don't do it nearly as much as I should.
I am the same way. I meditate, but not nearly enough as I should. I've found that like positive affirmations are the mixture of positive affirmations with like a separate mindfulness meditation is kind of like the perfect thing for me. I used to, when I would commute to school, I used to go back. This is like really embarrassing. I used to go back and forth between these like really out there like positive affirmations and like Disney songs, because they're just like so upbeat all the time. And I think like the brain for people who like I love like a dark kind of like comedy like that. Like it's weird because like I dress like very bright and my house is very bright, but I think that my brain is kind of a little bit dark. So I feel like I surround myself with bright things and with like positive things and like Disney songs, because I'm like, rewire this brain. Like I have to like my brain be positive today. Like shut the hell up, like so something like that I was like, I love that, because I think that like especially when you're so young, and like as like Beanie is obviously like a great image for girls who don't like fit the like Barbie stereotype or who aren't like the hot girl, so she's had to overcome all of those voices telling her like you have a bad personality, like like you're no fun to be around, or like or whatever. And it's also interesting that it's like you never really see Molly's family around.
Right. I thought that was interesting too.
So she's probably had to be her own kind of positive, like what's it called, like a positive reinforcement.
Right. Exactly. You're absolutely right.
And there's two angles I want to talk about that from. So when you're talking about having dark thoughts in your head, I think that we are a lot more complicated than we like to give ourselves credit for. We need to understand things, and we need to pigeonhole people and like, you're this person, you're that person. And truth of the matter is, you can be the biggest saint in the world, but you have just as many dark thoughts. And there's a yin and yang to us all, and we choose to emit the light that we want to emit, and it's okay to be all of that. Now I'm not saying that it's okay to do bad things, but you have to allow yourself the entire gambit of what it is to be a human being. So yeah, there, I have dark thoughts. We all have dark, crazy thoughts. And one of my performance arts teachers, he said what's really awesome about being an actor, being a performer, is that you get to utilize those those different parts of you in a safe agreement with the audience that I'm gonna go here, you know,
Yeah.
and because I want to be honest to who this character is, right? So that's so cool. And then on the other realm of it, I am the most Saturday morning cartooniest, corniest. But I gotta watch my cartoons. I'm crying watching Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm watching Looney Tunes baked, and I'm like, you see, you don't understand Daffy Duck. You don't get what he's going through when it's hitting his head. You don't understand Coyote. He's trying to get that Roadrunner. He's trying to get that Roadrunner, my brother, and we all trying to get that Roadrunner.
Well, no, it's so funny because it's like I was like a big SpongeBob girl.
Oh
like,
my gosh, that's good.
Huge.
Yes.
And now I'm like, oh, I get it, Squidward. Like, you're like in this like capitalist society. You got to work this 9 to 5 when you're clearly an artist. You should just focus on the clarinet.
Right.
Like, you have a horrible boss who's just obsessed with money. And then you have this annoying neighbor who's just sunshine all the time. I get it. So it's like, it's funny how it's like, oh yeah, like as a kid, I'm like, why is Squidward so mean all the time? And then it's like, get a job and you'll understand.
You'll get it. That's beautiful, man. So yeah, man. And I love their swag to stop and just dance, you know, whilst Amy's going to pick her. Are we going to school? I don't know. I got to get this dancing out real quick though, you know.
So the whole soundtrack is just like, I want to dance, and I love that they open on just like them and being like funny and like upbeat and like they're their own party.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Like their friendship is like their own party. So it's interesting. It's like they try to like they're after the big party experience, but then they kind of have that all on their own at the like from the beginning.
Right, and only to realize that after trying to find the party, only to realize that was the one that mattered the most, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, man. And and so this is the last day of school, and I guess Amy is gonna go to Africa so she can make her tampons, apparently, and Molly's gonna go to Yale, and I love so much, like when we talk about characters being layered, and they go in, you know, after they were making fun of, you know, of AAA, you know, roadside assistance and all that, you know, again, trying to, you know, this is the slut and this is the jock. And then they just rock all of that in the face because, you know, everyone is multi-layered, you know, like that's the gay guy and these are the nerds, but no, like everybody's gonna go to a dope school, and this is even what, you know, this is what Molly's main thing that she has to get over. She's like, wow, we've been one-dimensional, we haven't lived, so now we got to spend the rest of this movie figuring out who we are, right?
Well, it's interesting. It's very much that concept that I think is just like so drilled into young people today. It's like work, 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 all work and no play makes Jack a very dull boy. Like it's very much like that is so, it's so in the zeitgeist of what's happening right now. And it's like kind of like something that we can all relate to.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's like, even though that temperature is turned up so much for Generation Z and it's so timely, that's a very universal problem that we all have. It's like we all sometimes feel that like when you're so concentrated on a goal, you kind of lose sight of enjoying the journey.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, man. It's so and figuring out who you are is so important in all of this, right? Because like you said, you'll end up working that job, you end up getting everything you want, but having nothing that you want all at the same time, right?
Yeah, and sometimes you can get there faster if you allow yourself those breaks to enjoy the moment.
Right.
Like I think.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. 100%. It's all part of it, you know? It's all part of it. And I love Miss Fine. I love what is it? Jer Bear? My man Jared. I love Jer Bear, man. That was one of my favorite characters.
Yes.
Yeah, and then let's see. We had Shakespeare in the parking lot. Amy awkwardly approaches girl she likes. Oh yeah, so she approaches Ryan, that the skateboarder, You know, it seems like there's like a little vibe there or whatever. And then we see later on that, you know, she'll kind of be disappointed by all of that, right?
What I really, really like, I mean, talk about like, when we talk about like an actor's director, like Olivia Wilde.
Of course.
Like, I mean, like, what better example do we have? Because, and I think you can just so see it in the way that she's even designed, and not that she wrote it, but, you know, like, I mean, there are certain, I think, liberties that I think that she took. Like, I think there are certain scenes that they didn't go by the script. They just kind of had more fun with it.
Right.
But whatever expectation you think about the character, she finds a way to turn it on its head.
Right.
And she does that even with the skateboarder character.
Right. Ryan was so cool. She was so chill.
Yeah, like she gets with the guy that Molly's character likes, and you're like, oh, okay, fluidity again.
Right.
That's thematically like very. There's so many, that fluid motion and that fluid there's like a fluid motion in the whole film, just like there's like a fluidity and a nuance and many different layers to each character.
Exactly. And that's what's so cool about the film, you know, and I can remember, you know, the last few years of my dating life where I definitely felt like, you know, it's almost like the 60s again, where it's like this free love, and, you know, and you kind of have to be careful if if I'm thinking about when they were in the party, and if it's a very conservative thing, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but you're like, I'm gonna go here and the guy's gonna like me, or the woman's gonna like me, and then we're gonna kiss and make out and it's gonna be great. But you kind of gotta, if you're going in like that, then you kind of open yourself up to being disappointed more than opening yourself up to experience what can happen to you, because you are awesome. Don't worry about what's happening in your head. Like, it's not saying not to have goals and not to want to be with somebody, but man, like, you know, I am definitely an ex-hippie, and you know, when you're talking about experiencing life with just all these different people, and you know, and I feel like I see, like, I was kind of exiting, I feel like, as this kind of thing was entering, you know, like I know the last couple of years, that I remember the summer that Tinder came out, and that was just like fishing with dynamite. That was ridiculous. That was ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, you can touch on it too, where I was just like, I feel like they were kind of getting into that, whereas like this kind of new era of, I don't know if it's about not wanting to be married or just kind of wanting to experience and find yourself, but I liked it. I liked watching it, you know.
Well, yeah, it's like it's one of those teen movies that it's not about getting the guy in the end, right? I mean, and who Caitlin Dever's character ends up with, if you could even call it that, is not somebody that we ever even expected. So it's, I guess, like opening yourself up to like things happening the way that you didn't plan them to, and kind of being able to like bob and weave, you know. It's like you have this goal, but if it doesn't go exactly the way you planned, can you pivot, you know?
Right. And it's very similar to what we talk about with our careers, because, you know, go shoot and go out and become a comedian, and then, you know, you end up an actress, or go out and, you know, direct your short film, and then you end up being a producer, or, you know, it's again, when we're talking about just, I'm really encouraged by it. It's also scary, but me, I run to fear. When I'm afraid of something, I feel like I'm going the right direction. But it's a thing where I am okay with me, and I'm going to enter this realm because my heart is telling me to. My mind feels like it's right, but I'm not going to get trapped in here. I'm going to allow all of this to occur, and kind of be safe in that, right?
Right, like getting out of your own way a bit. Isn't that Molly's, like, she's in her own way in every way possible.
Right. Her whole world, along with me too. Her when I'm talking about my favorite part in the film is when they were in the bathroom and what was it, AAA, or was it the one that that Amy ended up making out with, that Hope, that when they were in the bathroom was telling her, well, I'm going too. It was AAA. She's like, I'm
The very
going.
beginning.
Yes, she's like, I'm going to Yale too. And he's like, where are you going? She goes out in the hall. Where are you going? Where are you going? This isn't just the jock. This isn't just the slut. This isn't just the whatever. And when you're talking about, like, these people kind of everybody else allowed themselves to experience the full gambit of what it is to be a person, and now they're the ones stuck feeling like they gotta live like for forever tonight, right? When everybody's just kind of feeling good, everybody's content at least with where they're at, at that time versus them.
Well, it's so funny because that moment is such a perfect inciting incident, because it's like, as soon as she hears that line from AAA that she's going to just as good of a school, or the same school as Molly is, her whole world crumbles. And then she's like, we got to party. And she's like making it an assignment because she's so, like, that's just how her brain works. Like,
yes. Wow. That's something. Yeah.
And then it's like a perfect lead. Like, I mean, I also love it because it's so easy to, like, kind of unpack the structure of it. Like, I think that's one of the good things about Superbad and about, like, these kinds of movies, that there's like it's a big event film. So it's like, okay, like, inciting incident, plot point one is they're going to go do this, like, big party, and everything, like, all of those, like, plot points and the big event, it's all so tied into her character development. Right. That it never really, the plot doesn't feel forced. The plot, like, it is, exactly. Everything feels so organically driven by who Molly is.
Word, exactly, man. Yeah. So great. And I actually don't see what the problem is with having your vagina stuff with the pomas. I think that's awesome.
Compliment, I know, right? I only have one, but I would love many.
Right, yeah, man. So now, also, I noticed that, like, the bathroom was co-ed, so I guess that's a thing now. Everybody can just go into each other's bathroom now.
It's just a Gen Z. It's like that. It's Gen Z to a T. It's so modern and right now, and I think that I love that, and I also loved like, just the fact that it's like, they also turn the expectation, right, is that, like, Beanie represents, like, this body type that in any other teen movie, mm-hmm. It would be like, oh, you're the fat girl, and, like, you're not hot or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they're like, Molly is hot. It's actually her personality that we don't like. Right, and yeah. I just love that because it keeps it so real, because it's like, Beanie is beautiful. Right. And I love watching any sort of movie that can unpack all of these, like, body image issues that we put onto young kids. Like, it made me so happy to watch it, because I'm like, there are going to be young girls, and even myself, like, the young girl in me watches that, and it's like, yeah, Beanie. It, like, it makes me both angry at all of those movies that teach you that, like, that body type is gross or not what, like, the ideal, and that there's something wrong with it. And it makes me so happy that we've now moved forward into this way that it's like, it's more nuanced and interesting to kind of break that stereotype. And again, Olivia Wilde and the filmmakers, I mean, the writers, at every turn, they do that. Right. They take whatever you think that character is, and then they, like, crack it open.
Right. And that is a good install into, the film genre. I really love that, man. It's like, I have, I'm very similar to you where, I'm uncompetitive. I just want everybody to love and, let's do it together, and it's so cool for me to get my head cracked open. I don't know everything, I don't know like I said, I don't know everything about the fluidity of gender fluidity and everything about the LGBTQ, but goodness gracious, do I love you guys. The goodness gracious, do I want you to be you in all your amazement and all your glory. And I want to learn, and I want you to show me who you are and not box you in, because God knows people have tried to box me in, or people that I love. And it's just so cool that this movie is just a perfect example of nuance to characters. Like, who gives a crap? Like, yes, like, all right, I'm dating this person, now I'm dating this person, or I'm a jock but I'm going to Yale, or I'm going to Harvard, or I'm a Booksmart, I'm really good at this, but I also want to go to Africa and experience life a little bit too. And it's all these things. We are all of it, and hell yeah to it. I loved how just everybody's so layered. So yeah, it's so beautiful. So let's see what we have here. Molly's for personality. Oh yeah, Molly's a butterface for personality. They were getting her, man. They were eating her ass up while she was in the stall, man. Oh my gosh, teenagers are so ruthless, man. In hindsight, I was a big a-hole. Like I remember telling grown people like. Like, we would be in line at 7-Eleven. There would be a line, and we'd get a bunch of stuff, and we just walk up to the front, and people would be like, "Excuse me," and I'd be like, "What? Man, I'm a grown ass man."
Like, you're not even doing it's so funny, because I think about that all the time. I'm like, everybody was an asshole in high school, right? Like, kind of. I mean, I wouldn't go so far. I don't know. It's just like interesting because nobody's perfect in this movie, which I really like. There's nobody's put on such a pedestal that they can't be dissected and all, you know what I mean? But also kind of like patted on the back for the things that they do well, right? Like even the mean girl we end up liking, or we get a deeper understanding of her. Like when they're in the bathroom and Caitlin says that line to her where she kind of finally stands up for herself. Mm-hmm. She's like, "You're just one of those people who thinks they're telling the truth all the time, but you're actually just being an asshole."
How about it? You're just the character archetype. Like, you thought that you were that, and I felt like it was to me, the meta kind of thing of that is like, you thought you were the lead character and you thought you were the good one, but we're all good. Yeah, you're the one that needs help. So now the rest of the movie is like, get your stuff together, right? I love that.
Yeah. And then you see like this, I feel like she has like this very like angsty nihilist or like energy to her, which is an interesting angle to view the mean girl, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, like I feel like bullying is so different nowadays that I really enjoyed this view on the bully.
Right. Yeah. And I guess Molly, because I mean, it's hard to say that was it Hope? It's hard to say that she was the bully. I mean, especially at the end when she ended up making out with Amy, and they ended up doing their thing, and it was like, and I love how awkward it gets as she throws up on her. And then she shows back up, after Amy gets out of jail and, shows back up and gives her panties. And I mean, that's not a bully, right? And in AAA, she's talking about when she goes and picks up Molly, she's talking about how, okay, yeah, I did give him head, but again, we're talking about nuance. It's like why do I have to just be the slut? Why do I just have to be AAA? Like,
And it's like, why is that a bad thing? It's very like sex positive. She's like, yeah, I'd like to give a blowjob. Oh, crazy, wild. Nobody's ever liked sex before, So, and I loved that. I loved the sex positivity, the body positivity, the gender fluidity, the diversity. It was great. I think that, it was on all ends a very positive representation of this next generation. And I think that it was almost one of those movies where you get a lot. I think that millennials and Gen Z kind of get like a lot of flack for being like overly idealistic or just super accepting. And I think that this was like a very positive view of that generation. It's like there was no punching down. There was like they were the butt of the joke, but they were also very redeemed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like it was the kind of humor that I really like, because I sometimes find that like people think that to be funny they have to be mean, which I don't really agree with. It's like, yeah, like comedy can be biting, and this movie doesn't hold back on, you know, ridiculing these characters, but at the same time it's not malicious, and it holds the integrity of each character. Like you know what I mean?
Definitely.
Like in a lot of teen movies, I feel like the slut character is very like they're just kind of made into like the butt of the joke, and the same thing with like the overly gay or like flamboyant character, and you never really feel bad for any of the jokes, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know,
and there is somebody that there's a victim of those jokes, right? You know.
Yeah, there's no victim. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's so beautiful, and it was I love that you picked this movie, because it was just so educational to me, and I don't even know, I can't even put it into words quite yet. It's definitely understanding and feeling like this new zeitgeist, because I was very much, you know, wanting to get, you know, I had my football dreams back then, you know, so I was definitely on that jock trajectory of, you know, getting the scholarship to go play football and all of that. And what I loved about that was like, I was like, man, like if I was there, I would have been free. That's what I felt, you know, that's what I felt at the end of the movie. I was like, man, if I was there, I would have been free to just explore and be all sorts of versions of myself. And maybe I would have started directing early, you know, maybe I would have started rapping early or something. Who knows, right? You know?
Wow, what a great observation, because that is so on the money. Because I didn't feel like I felt the same way. Like I didn't start. I knew who I like. You always know who you are at your heart, I think, but you don't always have the courage to be that at that age. And what this movie does, and what that generation does, is like they are from the beginning exactly. Really, I mean, they're very self-aware of who they are, and they feel comfortable in doing that. Like their identities are almost like they're unabashedly themselves. And I think that's kind of where that generation gets a lot of flack, you know?
Right.
Is they're not afraid to express themselves. Like they're not afraid to express their gender. They're not like, I don't know. They're just, they are aware of their talent and their abilities, because I think that like they get flack for being like everybody gets a trophy generation, but part of like that is that they're less pitted against each other, and they're allowed to bloom, and they're encouraged more from a younger age. You hope, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I really I know I've brought this book up a couple of times, but I'll bring it up to you. It's called Homo Deus. My brother-in-law gave it to me, and I love it. Part of my thesis paper is based on that. I'm kind of intermingling it with Blade Runner. But what he's saying is that the Homo sapien is going to turn into a new species. And when you were just talking to me, it made me think of him explaining dadaism. So he was saying that once upon a time, you know, God and religion had the power. Like they had the prettiest buildings, they had the best system of collecting information and of achieving and earning wealth, and that's where it was. That's literally where it was. And then we went into humanism, where we realized that we created God, and we created farming, and we created industrialism, and my opinion matters. What my individuality and what I believe in matters. And it's propelling us into this new age of dadaism, where the individual doesn't matter anymore. It's about this freedom of information. You know, it's this interconnected web of information, and all that matters is that these channels in between these elements are open, and that's more valuable than the elements themselves. And it's so cool that, you know, even as we're just trying to explain, you know, what this movie means to us, it just kind of made me kind of go deep in a rabbit hole of like, man, this is sort of Dadaism, what he's talking about, where it's like, it just matters that we are creating this space for all of us to be us in all our greatness, right?
So
yeah, 100%. I mean, nail on the head. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think that what this movie does is like, it represents that generation so well, and so like it really nails down the zeitgeist, and so that concept is part of that zeitgeist, right? That fluidity of information, you know, interconnectedness, and like having an individual persona, but also being extremely connected to the people around you.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So beautiful. So yeah, I love that Phoebe was Amy's mother.
Oh my god! Oh my gosh! I'm the biggest Lisa Kudrow stan.
Yeah.
I love her. She can do no wrong.
Right. Oh my god.
And her like, I mean, she doesn't get that much screen time, but her oh my god, she's just so money.
It was just, yes, that's what we needed, man. I love that. I love that whole interaction, you know, like what did she say? Like, you know, like, we're gonna go, no, we're just gonna go get Korean face masks. She's like, I don't want to know what it's called.
I died.
Yes, man, that is so epic, man. All right, so now they want to go to the party, but they don't have the address, right? So they don't have the address to the party, and so they eventually they call Jer Bear. I gotta call him Jer Bear because I just love that.
Yes.
They call up Jer Bear. Jer Bear takes him to his party where nobody is at. And I guess Sasha Obama's party planners, they did it too, I guess, whatever. And Gigi, her high ass is in every party before they are. How does that happen?
Can I just say, she's my, like, I mean this, I know I'm so like enthusiastic about this whole movie and every character. She is my favorite character in the entire movie. Gigi is like this like coyote wild like party girl that like is just the comedic relief that we need. She functions almost like, I read somewhere that like she almost functions like a fairy godmother, you know, because she has like this magical quality where she pops up anywhere, but then also like in the later scenes she like guides them and gives them like this hallucinogenic drug that like opens them up, and like
exactly.
Yes, and they end up being they think that they are dolls. Yeah, they're Barbies with what do they call them, like marbles or something for breasts. They're like,
they're like, I feel like a dolphin.
Yes. That is epic.
I think my favorite line of that movie is when Gigi is actually introduced and she pulls up in the big convertible and she's like rolling around on the top of it, and I think Caitlin Dever's character is like, here comes the 1%, and I was just like, that's
dope. That's perfect. That is so, I just caught that when you said it. That's so dope. And I love how Jared explained him and her's relationship, where like he just, like, anybody that was judging her in the audience, just so you know, like this is probably the most grounded character, right? Like you said, it is the fairy godmother of like, she knows herself and she can let go. She can, like, we all gotta let go. We gotta have the courage to let go, you know?
She's the least judgmental character in the whole thing. She gives everybody kind of like no other option but to love her, even if she's a lot, you know, because she's a really like kind, like good person.
Because she cares. Exactly. And I'm not even going to take you to the party because, because we got life we got to live. You got a life to live, and I'm not going to take that away from you. I'm gonna give you these strawberries. I'm gonna jump off the boat.
Like
I'll see you when you get there at the next one, right? It's like, yeah, man. I love her character, and I love the scene with when the principal picks them up in the Uber. And they start watching the porn.
Yeah.
And he puts it on the speaker.
Oh my god! And I thought that was great when he goes, and it's just like that walk sign, and he goes, "Is that Cardi B?" And that's like way before WAP even came out, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Son, no, like he created the WAP. Principal created the WAP.
Cardi B said that, and she was like, "Yeah, that'd be a really good idea for a concept for a song."
Let's do it. And
that is that's Olivia Wilde's husband, right?
Yes, they're married, which like goals. They're
right.
So cute.
Right. Isn't that adorable? Right.
How fun. Yeah.
That sounds like a fun time, definitely.
Yeah.
So let's see. So we can
fast forward now to when they finally get to the party. So they were at the pizza spot and they tried to like stick up their genius idea was to go to the library, and then they realized when they were looking on social media that they just ordered a bunch of pizzas. They saw them like slamming the pizzas, and they're like, oh, we need to go to the pizza place, and the pizza people, they'll know the address to where they sit the pizza. So they go to the pizza place, and then they try to, what is it? I guess threaten one of the pizza guys with their awesome hair mask. They're giving me an idea. I'm like,
I love that.
To do that, but no, I don't want to stick up anybody.
So
but they were like, oh, give us the address, so he gives them the address, and he also, he's telling them, hey man, like you can't just roll up inside of people's cars, man. And, there's a lot of creeps out there. I said to myself, he's a little too good at describing what could happen.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, at the end, he is actually a creep his damn self.
Well, it's like, just like the beauty of this movie is like, they could have so easily had that moment and that would have been funny and we would have been along for the ride. But then how at the end, how they get Caitlin Dever out of jail is that piece of information.
Exactly.
So it's just like that callback, and it closes the loop on that character, and it just feels like fully fledged. Like he did, like it's like, oh, that wasn't just a throwaway character. There was a purpose for that. They knew what they were doing all along. The writer,
right.
And it did, and it's just great, and it's humorous and fun, and you're like, it's great.
No waste. I was thinking they kind of did, the boat party was kind of a Chekhov's gun. I thought that everybody was going to end up at the boat party eventually. Yeah. But I really love that it didn't happen because, again, that's just too classical. It's already been done before.
Yeah.
And so when Miss Fine shows up, and the favorite teacher, she lets you know just how broken she is, just how damaged she is. And her talking about her 20s, I always like to call those as character building years. That's what I call those, But it was just really cool to say that like this teacher who was so impactful to them, but also, she is telling them like, oh goodness gracious, you're going to the party, good, go have fun, and of course, she went all the way off and ended up having sex with Theo, apparently, allegedly. I don't mean to put dirt on your name, Miss Fine, all right, but I just love how she had such a her positive reinforcement to them was to live. It wasn't to you better not, I love that she was oh, goodness gracious. And of course, she's the one that finally gets to take them to Nick's party, right?
Well, yeah, it's like it's like everybody has that favorite teacher. Mm-hmm. And I love that like Molly's character is like the teacher's pet.
Right.
But the teacher doesn't even end up being that much of like a stereotype teacher.
Right, exactly.
Like she is her own person, and she is very much like
right.
Like my friends who are teachers and teaching. Like, she feels like one of them. Do you know what I mean? She feels like one of those young teachers that I'm friends with, that, like, you know, like, she doesn't feel dated. And I think that makes sense, especially for this genre, especially for this movie, like what it is.
That's great.
Yeah,
man.
And so they go into the party, into Nick's party. They finally make it. And of course, they talking about getting rid of, or, you know, deviating from expectations. Molly walks in, and like all of us that grew up on, you know, the John Hughes movies and, you know, American Pie and all of that, you know, she walks in, and, you know, she imagines Nick walking up to her and grabbing her, and they dance and they live happily ever after. But no, that's not what's happening. This is life. Look, there's a party. You know, that's the whole point. Everybody's here hanging out. Go live, man. Go figure, you know, not figure it out, but go experience, right? Like, I love that part.
What a gorgeous scene that was, though. Like, the dance, like how they filmed that, and just the choreography and the lighting and the cinematography. It like, I love that Olivia had this instinct to kind of, she has these surreal moments, like with the doll, and with Molly's imagination, where she imagines she's dancing with the jock, like
right.
And all the lens flares, they were appropriate. You know, lens flares can feel like too sci-fi or maybe a little too high concept-y, but yes, it was perfect. Yes.
Yeah, and it's like, you can just see, it's like, wow, this is like, it's crazy to watch, as, you know, like, this is a first-time director. Like, this is somebody who's been absorbing,
right,
and absorbing, and just like, not like, knocked it out of the park. And then I love that moment with the dance scene, because then when her world crumbles up, like, apart, when they kiss, but Caitlin Dever's character sees it and we don't, we finally understand Molly a little bit more, because I think without that moment, the stakes wouldn't have been as high, because now we really see
right, exactly
why she wanted this party so much.
Right. And was it Gigi? Who was it that put out there that she likes Nick? Wasn't it Gigi to put her on blast?
Gigi sees her before she does.
Yeah, ain't that something? Fairy godmother. Yeah. There you go again.
Fairy godmother, and she's like up on she like appears out of nowhere on the roof, and it's just like, they do it in
and that's great blocking. That's great visual storytelling. Again, she felt like a fairy godmother coming from, you know, atop, right? You know.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And so so the mission is, and the way this would have ended, you know, 15 years ago, whatever it was, you know, Amy sees Ryan, they kiss and have sex and live happily ever after, and then, you know, Molly meets Nick and they kiss and they have sex, and then they go to school together, and then they get married, all that stuff, right? But I'm so glad that, again, so we have Amy having this great engagement with Ryan. You know, they jump into the pool together, and part of me still stung, because I've gone through it too, where it's like, you know, you thinking that, oh, this is the party where me and that girl that I really like, we're gonna hook up, and, like, you know, it's going good, you're hanging out, jump in the pool together, and then she's over making out with somebody else, and you're like,
yeah, that was such a sad moment. And such a good use of, like, that. I feel like a lot of teen movies or teen shows, they do like, when the character's at the party, and then they're like swimming through the water in the pool in the middle of the party, to show, like, that always leads up to some big emotional turning point.
Right.
You know, and so then she just sees, like, she sees her, I think, from underwater at first, and then she comes up from the water, which is like the dream, right? The dream represents kind of like the experience that she hopes for or wants, and then comes up from the water only to realize that that's not real.
Right. It's kind of like the pool was like that, being submerged in that dream, you know, and kind of having to pop out into reality.
Yes.
Great visual storytelling. Yes, It's so true. Yeah, man. And with Molly, you know, she was having a great time with Nick. Nick was like, oh my gosh, I'm not worthy. You're here at this party. Oh my gosh, I'm honored, man. Let's play beer pong. Let's hang out. And she thinks that it's really going somewhere. And then when Amy goes to tell her, she pulls out her Malula. Is that what it's called? Their code word?
Malala.
Malala. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when she pulls her Malala, like that means that, hey man, I'm serious. Listen to me. We only got one a year for this. And Molly's like, no, like you are just, you're a clam. Like this, you're busting my dreams. Like this is my night. I'm living my dream. But the whole time, Amy loves her so much that she's trying to protect her from the heartbreak that she just experienced. Right.
Right.
And I love the texture of that scene. And then also just what I fear for my son, or like I just get chills thinking about these very intimate personal moments that's just all on social media. Everybody's recording it, right? And they're just having this complete fallout with each other, right? And it's it's hard. It's a hard scene.
It's a small detail that I feel like does two things. It raises the stakes and also is again like very emblematic of the time. And I think that like when I was watching that scene, I realized you don't even hear the end of their argument.
Right. It doesn't matter, does it?
No. It like the music comes in, and the music comes in and tells us how we're supposed to feel.
Right.
And I thought that was an interesting choice because I think that most people wouldn't do that.
Right.
I think most people would be like, no, we've got to hear the final beat of their argument.
Or a younger filmmaker, a younger filmmaker would want to, what is the dialogue and the performance too. And the fact that the sound went out, because you got to think, when you're in those heated arguments, you're not listening. You're talking and nobody's listening to anything. Everybody just feels that palpable moment of, I'm pissed at you. I hate you right now. Like you're breaking my heart right now. And all of that choice of how that was shot was so beautiful. Definitely.
It's funny because it's like, it really, like, they both have their love interest, but at the end of the day, when you look at the structure of the movie, it's really a love story, but like between like these two girls who are best friends.
Exactly. So cool. And that's what matters. It doesn't matter the getting with the girl or getting with the guy. It matters that you guys are graduating, you've accomplished everything, and you experienced and you created a bond. You created a lifelong bond. My best man was my buddy from 7th grade, and it was so crazy because there was a couple of years where we were out because again I was a lot more of a jock and a little more popular, whatever that means. And my buddy, he had started off going to Montgomery College. It's a community college, and I went to UAB. And I with my other good friend, and we felt like hot stuff. We're the ones that coined the term grown ass man all the time. and we probably got humbled the most in life also. Like, so be careful calling yourself a grown ass man because you will be humbled. But when we went to UAB, we kind of parted ways, me and that particular friend. And I just remember, I was like 18, 19 years old, and I was just at this party, and it wasn't like anybody was treating me bad or anything wrong was happening. My man, I just walked outside and I called him, and it was like 1:30 in the morning. I hadn't talked to him. I wouldn't be surprised if it was over a year. It was just, it had just been that long. I mean, maybe Christmas break, when I went back home, maybe we hung out a couple of times, but it was just different then, because I was Mr. D1 football player and he was in community college, right? But I just called him and I was like, man, like, you're my best friend.
Oh.
And he's just like,
that time,
and he was just like, no, where are you? Are you drunk? Are you drunk? Maybe. But man, if I had a wedding today, man, you'd be my best man. He was like, yeah, man, you're my best friend too, man. Yeah. All right, man. Call me in the morning. All right. Call me in the afternoon. All right. I was like, yeah, just hung up. But that's what I really loved about this movie, because I think that is the most valuable thing that I got from high school, and it was my friends, and it was the experiences that helped me figure out who the F I am, and even though I didn't figure it out right at 18, right, whether it was the grueling summer workouts, at football, whether it was me, trying to get the girl of my dreams all the time, or whether it was me, trying to memorize this line, this Cameron song for the Mr. Northwest pageant. So, and whether it was me directing, my first directorial debut, unbeknownst to me, was when one of my sophomore buddies, he was all sad because he was like, I don't have a talent. For the Mr. Northwest pageant. He was like, he was great at football. All the girls loved him, he was popular, but, deep down inside, like, he just put me aside, like, man, like, I don't have a talent, and I was like, bruh, this is what we're going to do. All right. Well, Dr. Floyd, she loves that new show, American Idol. That I'm showing off my age because that's an old show now, right? I was like, she loves American Idol. We're gonna ask her to bring in her American Idol tapes, and we're gonna and we're gonna take all those snippets to the VA studio. We're gonna cut them all up where Simon is just saying all this disrespectful stuff. We're gonna take you on the stage. We're gonna record you saying, "Hey guys, I didn't feel like I had any talent, so I just wanted to show you guys the one time that I went to American Idol, to try out, and so he does all like, I get him to do, we had this go-go dance called Beat Your Feet. I had him like, just beat your feet, man. So he's like doing this crazy Beat Your Feet dance. I was like, sing Maxwell, he's like, oh, and I'm just cutting them in between the Simon and them responding. Like, that was terrible, worst thing ever.
And
the parents and stuff, man, they ate that up, man. He was the biggest. Yeah, man, he was the biggest hit, and and all the while I was getting pissed off because they didn't let me rap. I wanted to originally do this song, Jay-Z, the raunchiest song ever. Like, give it to me, give me the gushy stuff. I'm like, man, I rehearsed it once, and like, she was like, no, you're not doing the song. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is my song. Like, I'm returning. This is my senior year. I am returning to
artist. Yeah.
Right.
I am an artist. You have to let me fly. Like, I'm like, you're really shitting in my cereal. I compromised to the Cameron song, and I had a good time. It was cool, but it was still, it was still a rap song. It was like, it was the same thing. But that one, man, Darren killed it, man. And like, that one just, but it's those experiences, all of that stuff, man, just being there for each other and all of that, man. And just like that was everything to me.
Yeah.
What do you think, just as far as with your high school experience, comparing it to theirs?
Okay, so I felt like I didn't really, I was very artistic as a kid, but at the same time, I was very like angsty. Like, I don't think there's like one character in the movie that I would identify with, because I felt, or at least one stereotype, because I felt like I don't know, I felt like a little bit of a combo of different people. Like, I remember, I would get like, I would get into a lot of fights in high school. Like,
Shannon is a gangster. Don't let the looks fool you. You see those tats? That's for everybody that she has. That's what her tats are, for everybody.
I'm like so not like that though. Now as an adult, I look at that stuff and I was like, I was just so extra. Like, I was a very kind kid, but I think that I would get a lot of flack because I don't know, I wore a lot of makeup. I dressed however I wanted. I was like, I would like party with the best of them, but then I would also like do my homework, and like,
Were you popular? Were you one of the popular kids?
I wasn't like the popular like I could hang with them, but at the same time, I had my other group of friends. I existed in like, I never wanted to be, I was like this weird person who was like a loner, but not like I had all of my friends, but I would just like drift between people with like however I felt that week. You know, like sometimes I wanted to go balls to the wall and like hang out with like these like party people.
Right.
And then other times I'm like, can we just like do homework and eat bagels and like, you know, like stuff like that.
That sounds so, man, we sound so simpatico because I'm, like I said, I was not one thing, you know, and I didn't feel that way. I think I was very neurotic and I kind of pigeon-tailed myself, but yeah, I was all of those things. I hung out with all those people. So yeah, man, that's cool. You can go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
It was weird. I remember like when I entered high school, there was this girl who was like, she was older than me, and she had like, she like did her makeup like how I did my makeup on purpose, and then like took a picture of it, of her like pretending to be me, and then posted it on Facebook, like trying to get me to like fight her. I think because yeah, like trying to incite that. And then like I had like a very like tough older brother who like immediately shut that down, was like, no. And so I don't know. I think that like, I don't think I was.
You guys close in age? You and your older brother, or y'all close in age?
Yeah. So he's 3 years older than me. And then I have an older sister as well.
Cool.
And so I just felt like I was not, I grew up in a household that was very like tough, you know, like between my mom and my dad, like they were not scared of anyone. My brother was the same way. And I felt like because I was I'm very like sensitive. And I think that people thought that I would just kind of take it. Mm-hmm. And so I was just like, I'm not going to. And then like I ended up getting into like a lot of altercations because of it. Cause I was like, no, I'm not gonna, you think that I'm just like, because I don't know, because I look sweet and I am actually very kind, that I'm gonna take your shit. But I also like come from aggressive, loud people.
Right. Yeah, man.
So I have like this like other side, you know, so I felt like that was my nuance, where I was like, I was a very like kind kid, but I had my own set of problems. Like I had to like go to court. Like I was like, I had to do community service. Like I was a good, like I had a good heart.
Yeah.
But I was trouble. Like,
yeah, man. Yeah.
I think it's good that, and you probably couldn't put a finger on it then because you're young at that time, but you know, it's that sensitivity. It's what is it? Prickly. That's what one of my acting coaches would always say, being prickly. Shout out to Adam. It's like you want to be, you're sensitive to everything, and but the emotional integrity that it takes, whether or not, no matter how old or how I guess hurt, something sensitive that you can really be. It takes someone strong, and to have a strong background to stand up for yourself, man. Like that. Like I want to hear what if any of my kids ever get into any fights or anything. It's like I want to hear what's going on, and I'll address it. And we never want to be violent, but at the same time, you have to stand up for yourself. You have, especially when you feel so much. When you feel so much, you care so much. People don't realize a lot of the time how hurtful it is. You know, like I was just talking with my auntie, that I was just like, man, like I the older I get, the more I see how misunderstood, or how much of a sliver, one may see in me, where, I appear to be strong, maybe, right? And I'm like, first of all, it all comes at such a cost, right? It's the strength doesn't just come from osmosis, but then also, when I was, when I was actually dealing with it, like I remember when just to put the tires down, not to just be all lofty. I'll just be specific. I remember when I first went to SCAD, you know, and I was so excited. I was scared because I had just spent a year working at a children's hospital up in Boston. You know, I had just you know, kind of domesticated myself. Me and my wife were choosing each other for the first time, really. You know, even though we were already married, and I felt like an open vein. You know, I had just turned away from, you know, working on Jason Bourne, when I had really put on a good impression for them to take me to the different places the next cities they were going to. And I just turned away from it all. And I didn't know why. I was getting bogged down from being a PA and didn't want to be an AD. I started to be afraid of becoming an AD. And I was just like, man, what do I want to do? And I'm like, oh, look at this. I'm just going to film school again. You know, I'm just like, I'm going underneath the cocoon again. So, cause you know, am I scared? Do I not have what it takes? I was very vulnerable. I felt so vulnerable. And I went there only to, get so invigorated, like, you know, whether it was 501, you know, filmmaking or, you know, post-production and listening to the class and them talking about these things. And I'm like, ooh, I talked about that, you know, with Pete Conskoll, you know, Ruth Negga, you know, when I was working on Loving, or, oh, I watched, you know, all these improvs, things with Paul Feig and you know, Melissa McCarthy and Kate, and I saw it, you know, I saw all of these things, and I'm like, I just was excited. I'm just blurting, and unbeknownst to me, I'm the know-it-all now, right? I'm talking to the professors. They're saying the things they've gone through, and I'm like, man, like I remember when I was riding on a skateboard trying to shoot music videos, trying to get dolly shots. And so I'm like, oh, so what I should have did was this, or, oh, next time I can do that. And, you know, I could, and for lack of a better term, you know, I was just like, I guess I was kind of coming off as like this super confident guy, right? And you think that you can just say and do whatever to that person, but you just talking is just like, you don't know how vulnerable, how prickly I am, how like much stuff hurts me, you know, like, you know, how much those things can hurt. So yeah.
No, I 100% relate. I get that. And it's funny because I feel like when I was a kid, I would wear like I mean, like now I wear makeup for fun, but when I tell you, like, I did not, like, it was like I think Eliza Schlesinger has a bit where it's like makeup is war paint.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And I think that it really is true, especially when you're like a young girl, like in high school, because you're like, all right, people are going to come at me. I'm ready for it. I'm going to, like, you're putting on your makeup, you're putting on your face. And I was like, let's fucking go. I was like, I was not gonna, I had my hair big. It was like, I felt like I was stepping into like the arena. For like my first, like, not until like my senior year of high school did I enter that building. Like I couldn't not wear makeup.
Right.
Like I didn't feel like myself without it.
Yeah,
and then my senior year of high school, I was like, oh my God, like what a weird way. Like I didn't feel like beautiful. I didn't feel like ready. I didn't think that, like, I felt like I needed it in a way that wasn't healthy. Whereas like now I have like a healthy relationship with how I see myself and like how I present myself and everything. But it's interesting. It's like that vulnerability and that mask that we put on tricks people into seeing us with like as not vulnerable people. And so like
what's crazy is it worked.
Yeah,
you know?
it worked. It served its purpose.
Right.
It served its purpose. But then I also couldn't understand. I was like, why does everybody, like, I was like I was the type of kid where like I remember I was wearing, like, I just was like, I didn't get it. Like I remember it was like Halloween, and I was like, I was something. I was 16 years old. I had this like Playboy costume on, and I was in bright colors, and I was like, I don't give a fuck what any of these people think of me. Like, I'm having fun. And I walked into like my child development class, and there was this girl who was sitting in front of me, and she started like talking about me, but I was like right behind her. and I just like tapped her on the shoulder, and I was like, if you have a problem with me, you're gonna have to turn around and say it. And I was like, because I mean, like, I wouldn't do this now, but I was like, because we can go. And then she was like, I was like,
Boston strong, baby.
yeah, I was like, just because you don't have the confidence to wear what you want, you know, like that insecurity and like that kind of bullshit.
Yeah, man.
And then like I would get brought into the principal's office, and I was like, I just remember believing that I was so right. Like I was like, I don't understand. I was like, this girl clearly was being mean to me, and then doesn't want the consequences of her actions.
Yeah.
And my principal like was so kind. He was like someone who's like, Shannon, I get it. He was like,
Word.
Like,
What else?
He's like, I'm on your side. He's like, I'm on your side, but you cannot express yourself in a violent way. He was like, when stuff like that happens, you have to come to me. And I was like, yeah, but I'm not a rat. I was like,
I ain't no snitch, bro. I feel you, son.
he's like, the real world doesn't work like that. So I feel like that was like my growth as a person. I was like, okay, like that's not like that was like an immature mindset that I had to grow out of. But what I've tried to retain from like those experiences is that confidence that like it takes, I think, to be an artist, where it's like nobody's gonna tell me what I can and cannot do. I'm gonna like fully be and own who I am, because on the inside I feel very like shy and self-conscious all the time.
Right.
And but I have to like remember, like I think that when we're kids and we're younger, it's almost like easier to like, because the world hasn't taught you otherwise yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you haven't been weathered yet, man. You know what? You know, bugs are attracted to the light at night, right? You know, and when you're the strong one, you kind of always end up. But I always say it to my wife. You know, we got to pay the cost to be the boss. You know, I do not say somebody that you say, hey, you're gonna be queen. You're going to be king. There's somebody you say that to and they're like, oh, cool. I'm going to fly jets and I'm going to have parties and like it's going to be awesome. I'll have all the control and all the money. Then there's somebody else you say, you're going to be king. You're going to be queen. And they're like, man, like heavy is the crown. Wow. Like, let me prepare myself. Let me get right, and and that's when I always say I come at directing, I come at it so humbly because I'm like, man, these people are depending on me. These people are spending their time, their passions, they're trusting me. And when you're talking about these little instances that we don't realize when we're younger, that I mean, just straight up, like you're a leader, like just you embody it and you always knew it. And heavy is the crown, my friend. It's not saying it like, all right, cool, give me my crown, bitch. It's like, man, like I gotta live this life, and I just, and even when your principal was talking to you, man, I love that he gave it to you like that. And it really sounds like that your family gave you those values too, man. So I'm so glad that I called you for this, man, because this is so encouraging to me. I want you to know how much I really appreciate this.
Well, you have to know that this like made my day, because I think so highly of you and just like your spirit and your creativity and your positivity and just like your outlook on the world, and connecting with you in a time where we need that has made a lot. Like I haven't, like, I haven't really left my apartment, and so I miss these social connections, because as an artist, like other artists like you who are doing it, that's my lifeline. Because like I was saying, like I'm a sensitive person and I need to see other people doing the thing every day, so that I can believe in myself to do that. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not the same thing, but it's like why people go to AA, like to see and get that encouragement from other people. It's like, as artists, like it's not always easy to believe in ourselves, but when we see other people doing it and doing it well and doing a good job, it makes it a little bit easier. And I think that right now everybody kind of needs that sense of community.
All right. Thank you so much. And we forget that like we all we have, you know. Well,
Yeah.
one of my homegirls, she was a director's assistant when we were working together, and then she ended up being a producer on the Florida project. And
Wow.
yeah, and we were just talking to each other, and we had to, you know, we had to cut off the recording because we had some tea to spill, but it's just we forget that we are all we have. She's like, I have not spoken about this in forever, and I'm telling her like, oh man, I remember when, you know, they let you shoot, you know, B-roll because they needed because they weren't gonna make the day, and they were like, oh, get Danny and all, and she, you know, she has her own journey that it was like she forgot about that. She forgot about, you know,
Right.
those things that brought us to those, and the things that we experience as creatives. And it is tough. It is a very again, it's very esoteric. It's very, you have to be self-driven. So yes, I'm so fed by this, you know. Just it's just so mutual. The energy is so mutual. We had to make sure that the next time we speak is further in between. You know,
Please.
we'll do. Well, of course, we'll do another episode, but I'll make sure I'll send you a trailer to what my thesis. I'm not going to release it yet, so I'll send you a link to it.
And now, when are you wrapped up at SCAD, which is also an amazing school? My friend went there, who actually did the we worked on a film together, and she did the animation for the title credits. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah, man. No, SCAD Atlanta has been awesome. Like, you know, just as, you know, we're just as much as we're talking as creatives, I love the network I built. There's so many talented filmmakers and producers and just you know, conglomerate of networking that you can do there. It's very, where you talk about the competitiveness at USC, I feel very much in Georgia and at SCAD, we all are kind of insecure, whether or not we say it out loud. I'm letting you guys know right now, I know it, because I am too. Like, we're all really insecure. We're like, should I be in LA? Should I be in New York? You know, oh, let's do it together. And you know, there, of course you get a bit of the competition. It happens. It's there, but it's been a really great experience. I really appreciate how the curriculum there is all about finding ways to find yourself in film without being the producer or the director. That, like, there's just so, like you say, there's just so many nuance inside of our career, and everybody thinks that, you know, if you're not, you know, above the line, or if your name, like, there's just so many names in the credits, and there's so many ways to make money as an actor, as a comedian, as a performer, as a storyteller, as a writer. There's just so many different little avenues to make money and to find your niche. I really love them for that. I think, like I said, I really think the biggest thing for me was just I had a really good safe zone where I found a lot of people that are smarter than me at a lot of things, you know, and they work with me, and you know, we get together and we do stuff together, and we it's just a thing of where you don't always kind of have to feel alone. You know, you don't have to feel alone, because I can call, even in, honestly, now that I'm thinking, I'm really just talking about the Atlanta, you know, kind of film community, because a lot of the people that I work with don't go to the school, you know. Andres Lugo, that I just told you, the cinematographer, you know, that's a daytime Emmy winner. You know, I met him, you know, being a grip on somebody's set once. You know, my buddy Zach, he just so happened to be he went to the same high school I went to up in Germantown, Maryland. I was just working crafty. I was just being crafty for somebody on a set one day, and we were just talking about, you know, talking about going to the same high school. Now he's my go-to editor, you know. My improv buddies from Dad's Garage. We we do all these crazy skits and stuff and classes and stuff. And even though it's been COVID, we did La La Land. One of my homegirls, Alexandra Petkus, we talked about La La Land and how we're the dreamers, right? And we support each other. So yeah, man. So shout out to SCAD Atlanta and in Atlanta in general, man. It's really been good, man. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I feel like I've been drawn into this community through Zoom.
Yeah, you're part of it. You're here. Yeah. You are here. Yeah. You are part of the Georgia community. Everybody in the state of Georgia, call her right now. Her number is no.
I'll be there.
Do you want to let them know? Do you want to let anybody know? Well, I'm probably not going to actually air this until January, February-ish, because I'm not releasing this until Christmas. But do you want to put any Instagram or any websites, anything out?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter. I like to tweet funny things. My Twitter is Shannon Hardy 78, no spaces. And yeah, stay tuned. I'm filming something safely in a month with like 3 actors, and so that'll hopefully be out by January, Christmas time. So you can check out my Instagram, which is Shannon Hardy no spaces 77 for that.
Great. I look forward to checking it out too. Keep me posted. So yeah, man, like I said, I'll let you know. I'll definitely send you the link to my trailer, and then I'll let you know how things are going with my production as well, man. I'll send you some pictures of the Scout and stuff and all that jazz.
Please do. I can't wait to see it.
I can't wait for us to collaborate. It's in the future. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, just get me out of the woods of what the hellfire that's going on right now, so that I can go see my cool, amazing, talented friends, and so we can work together again. Because it's like right now, it's like writing and just things like that, but I miss traveling. I miss my friends.
Yeah. Well, we're here for you, man. You definitely got a film community here as long as I'm here.
Yes.
All right. Well, guys, that's the end of this episode. Again, it was a whole lot of me and Shannon and a little bit of Booksmart, but I love this, man. I love your soul, man, and thank you so much. You guys, we're out.
Bye. Thank you, Trei.
Of course. Thank you, dear.
Find all our content on thenewfilmosophy.com.